You ever have that thought, I know I'm carrying extra weight, but I can't seem to lose it? Or maybe you're thinking, yeah, I lost 20 pounds last year, but I've gained it all back and then some. If any of that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dig into the real science of why traditional dieting is so often a frustrating and, frankly, a losing battle. It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We follow all the rules, we count every last calorie, we hit the gym, and hey, for a little while it might even work, but for most of us, the weight just comes creeping back. It's this vicious cycle. But what if the problem isn't our willpower? What if the rules we've been playing by are just wrong? And get this isn't just about being overweight. A staggering 40% of people who are considered normal weight are actually dealing with the exact same metabolic diseases as those who are obese. We're talking type 2 diabetes, heart disease, hypertension. Now that tells you something really crucial. This problem goes way deeper than the number on the scale. It's about what our food is doing to our bodies on the inside. All right, so the very first thing we need to do is get rid of the blame. This is a huge shift in thinking, but it is absolutely essential. The whole story that this is all a matter of personal failure, it's not just unhelpful, it's scientifically just not true. I want you to let this sink in for a second. The idea that being overweight is some kind of simple failure of personal responsibility, it just doesn't hold up. The quality of life for an obese child, for example, is comparable to that of a child who's undergoing cancer chemotherapy. This is not a choice that anyone would ever make for themselves.
Let's just look at the evidence here. This isn't just an American problem, it's a global pandemic. In fact, and this is wild, even captive animals are getting fatter, which points to a much bigger environmental issue. We know that the poor often have less access to healthy choices. And maybe most alarming of all, the steepest rise in obesity is in toddlers, 2 to 5-year-olds. You can't blame them for a lack of willpower. Infants don't diet or exercise. Something else has to be going on.
Okay, so let's dive into this. If it's not our fault, then what is the real cause? Well, the science is pointing its finger at one powerful hormone that basically controls whether we store energy or burn it, and its name is insulin. This slide right here perfectly frames the entire shift in thinking. For decades, we've been fed this story on the left. It's all about calories in, calories out. But the real story, the one our bodies are actually living, is over on the right. It's about hormones, specifically how our body is told to store energy. Gluttony and laziness aren't the cause of the problem. They are the symptoms of a broken hormonal system. This is probably the biggest myth we need to just completely bust. The idea that 100 calories from, say, a soda and 100 calories from almonds are treated the same way by your body it's just not true. Different kinds of calories trigger completely different hormonal responses. And that response is what determines whether that energy gets burned for fuel or gets shuttled directly into your fat cells. So, let's meet our main character, insulin. Just think of it as the body's master fat storage hormone. When you eat, especially processed carbs and sugar, your pancreas releases insulin to move that energy out of your bloodstream. And its number one job? To push that energy into fat cells for storage. So the most crucial point here is this. More insulin means more fat. It's really that simple. And this right here, this illustrates the biochemical trap that so many of us are stuck in. You eat a processed meal, low in fiber, high in sugar. This causes a massive insulin spike to deal with that flood of energy. That high level of insulin then blocks a different hormone called leptin from telling your brain that you're full. So your brain, because it can't see the I'm full signal, literally thinks you are starving. And what's the result? You feel hungrier and you have less energy, which drives you to eat more. It is a perfect, vicious cycle. 56. What could this number possibly represent? It's not a number of calories, it's not grams of fat, it's something much, much sneakier. It's the number of different names for sugar that the food industry uses on ingredient labels. 56 ways to hide the very thing that's driving those insulin spikes. We're talking agave nectar, barley malt, rice syrup, turbinado sugar. Guess what? It's all just sugar to your pancreas. In fact, more than 80% of the 600,000 items in the average American grocery store are spiked with it. So if the problem is a hormonal imbalance driven by all this processed food, what's the solution? Well, it's not some new fad diet or a pill or a powder. The antidote is actually surprisingly simple. It's real food. Okay, so here's the absolute game changer. We have got to stop obsessing over calories. It's the wrong target. To fix the problem, we need to aim at the true cause. We need to lower our insulin levels. And we do that by changing the quality of the food we eat, not just the quantity.
So, how do we actually lower insulin? Well, first up, fiber. Fiber slows down your digestion, and that prevents the energy flood that spikes insulin in the first place. You can think of it like a time-release capsule for your food. Next, eat healthy, anti-inflammatory fats like omega-3s. And finally, just load up on micronutrients from a wide variety of whole fruits and vegetables.
And you can forget all those complicated food pyramids. This simple plate gives you an easy visual guide. Just aim to fill half your plate with vegetables or fruit, a quarter with some lean protein, and the last quarter with either dairy or whole grains. See? No calorie counting required. It's a simple, sustainable way to rebalance every single meal. And here's where the magic happens. When you focus on eating real food, packed with fiber and nutrients, your body's hormones, they start to regulate themselves. Your brain starts getting that "I'm full" signal again. The cravings start to go away. Your appetite naturally calibrates itself. And that whole not eating too much part, it just happens. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually put it into practice in a modern world that's just full of supermarkets and fast food? Let's get into some simple, actionable rules you can use. Here are 6 super simple rules for navigating the grocery store. Rule number 2 is a big one. Shop the perimeter. That's where the real food, the produce, the meat, the dairy, that's where it lives. The middle aisles are basically ground zero for all the processed stuff designed to hijack your hormones. And I love rule number 6. If sugar is one of the first 3 ingredients, just call it what it is. It's a dessert. No exceptions. But what about the cost? We're always told that processed food is cheap. But let's just look at this comparison. A delicious, home-cooked meal of real food for a family of 4 can cost around $7. A fast food equivalent? $30 easy. And that doesn't even begin to factor in the long-term healthcare costs. Real food isn't just healthier, it's often way more economical. I absolutely love this quote because it reframes cooking completely. It's not a chore, it's an act of empowerment. Taking control of what goes into your food is the single most powerful step you can take to protect your health and the health of your family. So ultimately, it all boils down to a trade-off. We can choose the short-term convenience of processed food, which, as we now know, often leads to long-term health problems, or we can choose to invest a little bit of time in our kitchens now for a lifetime of health and well-being. When you frame it that way, the choice becomes pretty clear, doesn't it? So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. We're all going to invest our time somewhere. Will it be proactively in our kitchens creating health, or will it be reactively down the road in a clinic managing disease? The power to decide is in our hands.